Field of 68's After Dark, the only place you need to be for college hoops every single night. We are presented by our lovely sponsors at Bet Rivers, and I am your host for this evening, Jim Root of the Three Man Weave. I'm joined finally by All Facts Media's Ace Robinson. He dipped out on us last weekend, but he's here. He's hanging out with us. We've also got Sean Paul from Making the Madness and the Mid-Major podcast here on Field of 68. Ace, you were too cool for us last weekend, but you're here. Are you ready to talk some hoops as we get into March and the conference tournaments?
Listen, man, I am no genius, but last week my technology failed me, and but look, lesson learned this week. I closed all my other tabs, my technology is working. I'm here, I'm ready to go, ready to talk some hoops. So let's go ahead and get into it, baby.
Good. You came with solutions, not excuses this time. We like to see that. Sean, how are we feeling? I know we're getting some good mid-major conference tournaments right now, so this has got to be prime time for you.
I mean, I love it. All the games. I mean, it's coming down to the wire here. Big South, a lot of close games going to overtime. Campbell, they were having a good game with Gardner-Webb right there. And then Jordan Whitfield comes just short on the free throw. Gardner-Webb ends up winning by 1. That's what March is all about, the heartbreak and then the happiness when you're able to survive in advance.
Yeah, you go back to even this morning, the NCAA game, a couple free throws from a senior in Cam Langley. It is – the highs and the lows are never on more display than watching some of these careers end. It's brutal, but we also do enjoy it because it is great college hoops. Tonight we have a wonderful show. We're going to talk, of course, UNC Duke. Both of our producers tonight are UNC fans, so we're really going to try to be easy on them here. But they are double-digit underdogs at Duke. It is Coach K's final night. That's going to be quite a game. We'll talk about some of the conference races that are coming down to Saturday, the Big 12, the SEC, the A10. We'll take a little bit of a peek at some of those mid-major tournaments that I alluded to, and then also a little bit of a game of start, bench, or cut. We're going to put both these guys on the spot and see who they have in a couple games of trivia here. But let's start, guys. Let's start with the headliner. It is in Cameron Indoor tomorrow, Durham, North Carolina. Big old rivalry on Tobacco Road, UNC Duke. And of course, the stakes couldn't be higher with Coach K coaching his final game. Ace, I wanted to ask you, because you are a former Division I basketball player, something Sean and I do not have the claim to.
Unfortunately not.
No. Gosh. How would something like this, the scene and the stakes and a coach ending his career, I mean, I know you didn't play for Coach K, but how would something like that change your approach as a player? Do you try to just block it out of your mind?
Yeah, I think, you hear all the coach talk and, this is the same as any other game. And, you try to keep it that way. Like the physical prep isn't going to change going into the game. You're still going to, practice at the same times and walk through, and team meal is going to be the same and whatnot. Hopefully, Duke might give him some better food for Coach K's last meal. Maybe they'll give him some five-star pregame meals before this one. But, I mean, as a player, I think you just have to kind of go in there and to the best of your ability to try to attack it like any other game, because even God spoke about this earlier with the Texas and Texas Tech game with, all that game went to Texas Tech with Chris Beard and, how he left. And people were talking about, if the moment was going to be too big for those guys. And they came out like they were shot out of a cannon. So, I think in a game like this, the stands are going to be packed. There's going to be countless legends that are going to be in attendance at the game. I think you try to have to hope that you can feed off of that energy. But from a prep standpoint, you try to kind of, to the best of your abilities, try to treat it like any other game, and then, let the fans, let the moment kind of overtake you once the game starts and the ball goes in the air.
Sean, what are you looking at with that game? Obviously, the first one was a huge blowout. Duke got up big on the road at UNC and never really looked back. Do you see something similar happening, or do you think maybe Hubert Davis and the Heels can make some adjustments, keep this one close, and maybe you get some nervous young freshmen for Duke with such a high-stakes game going on? How do you see that one playing out?
I think we'll see more of the same. I mean, for Duke, you're going to come in, you're going to hear the crowd. It's Coach K's final game. And even though you could try to ignore that if you're a Duke player, at the end of the day, like, this is it for Coach K and Cameron Indoor. You'll never see him coach in that arena again. It's John Shire's job after the year. What it comes down to for me is Duke is a really physical team, and that's something that North Carolina struggled with throughout the year. I just don't think that's something that North Carolina will be able to solve overnight. I think that's going to be a problem for them all game tomorrow. Who are they going to have that can stop Paulo Banchero? I don't think they have anybody, and that's going to be a tough spot for North Carolina trying to come out with the win.
Do you think it'd be any different if Dawson Garcia was still around? Is that a kind of guy that could have matched up with him? I know he's not really known for his defense, but maybe that would have helped.
Yeah, I mean – you have to have not many people can guard Paulo Banchero to begin with, but you need a guy like a Theo John type of player. Like, even though he's more of a rim protector, you need a guy that's strong and can play that defensive role. I just don't think North Carolina has that guy, because Dawson Garcia maybe could have done a little better in like a Brady Manick would, but I just don't think North Carolina has that player.
Yeah, maybe the Heels can trade for Theo John pregame, see what they can offer Duke and get a better matchup there. Ace, do you think it matters that Duke is so young, that they have a lot of freshmen and sophomores in that rotation? Does that make it more difficult to be poised from the jump in a game like that with those kind of stakes? Or does it not matter because it's the end of the year and they've gone through some wars already?
Yeah, you mentioned it at the end there. I mean, it's March now. Like, those young guys are no longer freshmen. The sophomores are no longer sophomores. I mean, at this point, you've been in battles all year, whether it's the non-conference games, the ACC games. Like, it doesn't get any bigger than this. I mean, Trevor Kill, Jenny Roach, though he hasn't played well. I won't say he doesn't play well, but he hasn't really played up to most people's standards this season. I mean, he's been battle tested year in and year out, game in and game out. And I think at this point in time, man, it's put up or shut up time, man. And obviously, we've seen Duke won a national title with freshmen before, with Tyus Jones, Jaleel Okafor, Justice Winslow, and those guys. So obviously, there's no Justice. Well, actually, you could argue that this team is probably more talented, than that Duke team with Paolo Banchero and AJ Griffin and Mark Williams and Trevor Keels and Wendell Moore. I mean, those guys are all going to be potential first round, maybe early second round picks in the NBA draft. So, like I said, at this point in time in the season, man, those guys have enough experience under their belt where it's put up or shut up time. And I think at this point in time, they've gotten enough minutes under their belt to be able to go and get the job done.
So Sean said he thinks it'll be more of the same. I tend to agree with him. I think that Duke will ride the emotional wave. But Ace, are you going to be bold and say UNC goes in there and spoils it?
I know our producers wanted us to say something like that on the air, but Carolina, look, they're going to get smoked. Like, this is not going to be pretty. The game in Chapel Hill wasn't pretty. This game is going to be even worse. Like, I'm not – listen, if you listen to my last appearance on After Dark when Sean and I were on about a month ago, listen, I'm not high on this Carolina team. I haven't been all year, and I don't think that tomorrow is going to be anything different. I think Duke is going to win this game by 15, 20, or somewhere in that range tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think UNC's done enough since that appearance to really change your mind. It's kind of been more of the same for them as well. All right, let's shift gears. Let's go to the SEC, where there is still a title to be decided. It comes down to Auburn winning against South Carolina, which, they should. But they've had some struggles recently. They haven't been as sharp. They just went to overtime at Mississippi State, had a couple losses earlier there. But they are back at home, Sean, and Auburn has been unbeatable at home this year. So is this going to be just the title is settled as soon as the Tigers are done and we don't have to worry about the Kentucky game and the Tennessee game? Do you think Auburn takes care of business?
Yeah, I can't imagine Auburn's going to lose this game at home. You look at some of the struggles they've had, like you said, most of them came on the road. They don't lose very often at home. And while South Carolina's been a lot better than people have expected, I would say they're 18-11. That's pretty impressive. 9-8 in league play. They've beaten some solid teams. They beat LSU a number of weeks ago, but I just can't see them competing on the offensive end. They're going to have to make this a defensive game. And I think Auburn will have too many scoring options for them to be able to score points. Jabari Smith should have a big game, but that's something I want to see. How can Jabari Smith get the ball often? Because that's been a question for them all year. They have guards, but a lot of them like to take shots first, like Katie Johnson and Wendell Green. I want to see Auburn find ways to get Jabari Smith the basketball, because he's going to be the first pick in the NBA draft more than likely. And you look at the end of the game against Mississippi State the other day, he got the ball with like 2 seconds left and had it thrown up from 25 feet within the final seconds. You need to find a way to get him the ball in good spots for Auburn to be as good as they can be.
Yeah, I think it's probably, Auburn's a huge favorite in that game. They're probably going to take care of business. But Ace, let's imagine with me, the Tigers go down. They can't get it done against the Gamecocks. That leaves Kentucky with a game at Florida to potentially tie for the title. And then Tennessee hosting Arkansas, the winner of that game would tie for the title. So 2 questions. Do you think Kentucky wins at Florida, which has been a tough place to play? The Gators did knock off Auburn there. And then who wins that Tennessee-Arkansas showdown of 2 teams that are lurking potentially for a title as well?
Yeah. For some reason, I don't know why, I have a weird feeling that Florida's going to get a win over Kentucky. I don't know why. I don't know why I feel this way, but like you mentioned earlier, I mean, they beat Auburn at home earlier in the year, and People kind of give this Florida team a bad rep. Like, yes, they have the bad losses early, but I think it's something about being able to play meaningful basketball in March. And obviously, this team is fighting for their tournament lives. Right now, they're probably on the outside looking in, and a win over Kentucky would be the win that could potentially put them on the inside of the bubble. So I think, Mike White is somebody who I respect as a coach. People, have been not too high on him as of late for some reason. But I think Florida team with the athletes that they have and the potential that they can cause on the defensive side of the ball, I think they can potentially be able to not slow down, not stop Oscar Tshiebwe, but maybe slow him down and keep him off the glass. Obviously, you have Colin Castleton, you have Ant DeRougie, who's super athletic. I think that they can, neutralize him to a certain degree and be able to feed off of that home crowd and be able to potentially, win a game that could put them on the right side of the bubble if they can potentially get that win. So the basketball guys are speaking to me in that one. And as far as Arkansas, Tennessee goes, I think I'm going to go with Arkansas, man. This team has been playing outstanding basketball. They dropped their first 3 games in SEC play, but since then, they've been almost unbeatable. They've won 5 straight games as they head into this weekend, man. And they're playing great basketball, man. So obviously Tennessee is also playing well right now. Have won 3 straight, and one of those streaks is going to come to an end. But I think if I had to put my money on one of those teams, I think it will be on Arkansas right now, just because of the momentum that they've been able to build over the past month or so.
All right, Sean, you're getting the Big 12, but I want to ask, Tennessee or Arkansas, who wins that game?
I'm going to go Tennessee because they're at home. They've been able to beat Arizona at home. They've been able to beat Kentucky at home. They've been able to beat Auburn at home. I think the 6-point spread is a little much. I don't think it'll be a 6-point game. I think it'll be a 2 or 3-point game, but I think that Tennessee will be able to win at home.
Yep, undefeated at home, but yeah, that is a little bit of a big number. Arkansas has not been, their only losses by 1. Like that team hasn't lost by more than 6 in a long time. Yeah. All right, so let's talk Big 12 because Kansas and Baylor are both tied atop the league. They both have home games to clinch a share. I would say Kansas's game is a little bit tougher, though. They're hosting Texas. Baylor's hosting Iowa State, who can be feisty as an underdog. Sean, let's start with you. Which one of these games are you looking at most? And do you think both of these teams take care of business and share the title?
I think that's what we're going to end up seeing. I haven't been impressed by Texas this year. I know they beat Kansas early in the year in Austin. Courtney Ramey did a great job defensively on Ochai Agbaji that game. He really shut him down late in that game. But what it comes down to for me is I still think Marcus Carr needs to be the go-to guy if Texas is going to go anywhere. Right now, they look like a 5 seed that's going to be really vulnerable to most 12 seeds because they just can't put the ball in the basket consistently. They have the talent. They have the coaching. Just hasn't meshed the way that I was hoping it would. I had them top 3 in the preseason. They just haven't looked that way. The metrics still like them quite a bit. I just haven't seen it, and I've watched a good amount of them. It just doesn't look like a top 20 team, doesn't look like a top 25 team. Just haven't seen it consistently going into a tough environment. I can't see them going and winning that game, maybe keeping it competitive because of how good their defense is, but at the end of the day, I think Kansas's offense will be a little too much for them.
Kansas hasn't been sharp lately, Ace. They lost 2 in a row. They almost lost 2 in a row to TCU, including both home and away. We're able to pull one out at Fog Allen. Do you think what's the concern level for you, I guess, with Kansas? Do you feel like this is a team that's just kind of waiting to crest into the postseason, or are we just seeing a little bit of issues trying to get Remy Martin back in the lineup, some McCormick up and downs? How do you evaluate the Jayhawks right now?
Yeah, I am a little concerned. I think just because of the fact that, you want to be playing your best basketball at this point in time in the year. And at this point in time, they're not playing bad basketball, but they're not at their best. And they're not clicking at the level that you usually see Bill Self's team clicking at this point in time in the year. I think Texas is a team, like, obviously they've been up and down all year. They haven't lived up to the expectations that we had coming into the year, but that team is talented, man, and they are feisty, man. I think, obviously, I don't expect Kansas to lose. They've only lost 1 time at home all year, and now it's Kentucky, and Texas is not Kentucky. So I don't expect them to lose, but I do think that Texas can make this, can keep this game close. And I think if you're Kansas, man, I think the big thing that you have to do is just trying to get guys healthy, which, at this point in time of the year, nobody's really healthy on any of these teams. But for the most part, man, I think if you can close out with a big home win, head to the Big 12 tournament with some momentum, I think that'll be the best case scenario for those guys at this point in time.
All right. So yes or no, are either of you worried about Baylor at home against Iowa State?
No, they just don't have enough offense to go and beat Baylor, especially in Waco. I mean, they scored less than 40 points.
Yeah, so 36-point Iowa State, you don't think they have enough offense?
No, I mean, they just can't shoot the basketball. Their best offense is an Isaiah Brockington mid-range jumper that may or may not be contested. He's their only consistent source of offense. So I just can't see them really competing. Maybe they slow Baylor down a little bit, but they're not going to be able to score with them.
I won't lie, I love Brockett's game though. Like, I love his game. I don't know. Listen, that man's gonna make a lot of money playing basketball one day.
He was on fire for like a 5-game stretch. I think it was 24 points a game on 57% shooting. Kind of that train ran out of gas in their last game against Oklahoma State, but we know he has that gear. We could see it against Baylor, and Baylor has lost at home twice this season, Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. So it's no gimme there for the Bears. They got to bring their A game, especially if LJ Cryer is not back. Well, all right, let's shift gears here. Before we do, if you are watching right now, we are live on Twitter. We are also live on YouTube. Hop in that YouTube chat. We're going to hit some questions around the 30-minute mark, around the 45-minute mark. Our producers are going to pop in with the best questions. So you got to bring the heat with the questions. Really, really challenge Sean, myself, and Ace. We'll see what we got to answer those questions. But before we do hit the chat, let's talk conference tournaments. We don't have the premier one starting yet, but I love Arch Madness. I love WCC. I'm going to be at the WCC tournament tomorrow night, Monday, Tuesday. Really, really excited about that. Let's start with Arch Madness. Ace, I'll go to you first here. How are you feeling about Loyola? They're in the semifinals. They're right on the bubble cut line. Our Fielding the 68 bracket show has them right around that cut line. So they probably need to win this tournament because they would take another loss if they don't. Do you think they can get it done? They've got to beat Northern Iowa and then likely either Missouri State or Drake. How are you feeling about the Ramblers?
Well, I like Loyola Chicago. They were able to get a good win over Bradley today, a Bradley team that had beaten them earlier in the year. So it looks like, they're playing better. At this point in time, obviously they got Marquise Kennedy back, which was huge for them. The thing that he was able to do on the defensive side of the ball, I think he's somebody that can help them. I think when it comes to bringing energy and you hear Coach talk about energy generating plays, and I think he's somebody that can do that on the defensive end and allow you to get some easy buckets on the other end. But I will say, I heard Sean Paul in the chat. I don't know if yesterday called Northern Iowa the 4th best team in the Missouri Valley. And that was a wild take to me. Like you called.
I don't think that's that crazy. I mean, I think
they just beat Loyola Chicago in their own gym to win the league. They won the regular season championship, and they had
Loyola Chicago also beat them by 30 like 2 weeks before that.
What have you done for me lately, Sean Paul? They just beat them on their home court to win the league, and they had the player of the year in the Missouri Valley Conference.
Well, the player of the year should have been Isaiah Mosley. I think most people can agree on that.
I love Isaiah Mosley. Listen, I love his game. You know what I'm saying? Him and Isaiah Brockington are document certified, you know what I'm saying, one-on-one extraordinaires. But I will say, like, before the year, people were talking about this Northern Iowa team as a team that could potentially win the league. And obviously they got off to a slow start. But when you reacclimate somebody like AJ Green after sitting out all last season with an injury, it's going to take a few games to kind of get the chemistry back and to get that feel that with their teammates. So obviously, I don't think that they should have, slid the way that they did in the non-conference. But this is a talented group, man. That they're well coached. They're elite offensively, and they're a team that I'm not going to call it upset, but like that game is not going to be a breeze for Loyola Chicago in the semifinals, man. And I wouldn't be surprised if they lost that game to Northern Iowa. But I will say that I think Loyola Chicago is a team that they have the pedigree, they have the experience. They've won big games in March before, so they're going to be ready to play. So I wouldn't be surprised if they came out there and won the game, but I also wouldn't be surprised if Northern Iowa, won that game. I think to me, those are the 2 best teams in the league, and obviously the tiebreaker broke the way it did. So Northern Iowa ended up getting the 1 seed, and Loyola Chicago ended up getting the 4 seed because they got swept by Drake. But I think those are the 2 best teams in the league, man, and I think this game in the semifinals is going to be a super fun one to watch.
Yeah, the game they played to basically, it was a quasi-title game at Northern Iowa, was as good as it gets. It's shot making on both sides of the court. The teams it went to overtime. It was like in the 90s. Highly, highly recommend watching the semis of Arch Madness tomorrow because that game's going to be outstanding. Sean, if Loyola does win, do you feel like they have the same gear as last year and I believe it was 2016, or maybe 2018? 2018. They went to the Final Four. Does this team have the gear to make a run and get to the second weekend like last year's team did with Krutwig and Moser, or are they a little bit behind that level?
Yeah, I think they're a little behind that level. I mean, last year they were criminally underseeded. I don't know how they were an 8 seed. That just seems ridiculous to me. But
Illinois
I think
fans agree.
Yeah, I mean, that was just unfair for both sides because you're playing a team that was top 10 in KenPom in the second round. Like, that's ridiculous. But what it comes down to for me is they don't have Cameron Krutwig, and he was their best player. He was everything for that team. You have to play through your guards a lot more this year. And while some of the guards are pretty solid, Braden Norris, Marquise Kennedy, both good players, you don't have Cameron Krutwig. You need someone to really step up scoring wise. Maybe that's Lucas Williamson. The defense isn't as elite as it was last year, but the offense is a lot better. It's a different kind of offense. You shoot a lot more threes. I don't think they have that level to get to the Sweet 16, but I think they could win a game potentially.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, let's go to other tournaments. There's a bunch going on. We've got Sun Belt, SoCon. I'm gonna table the Big South because we're gonna talk about whatever is going on in the water in Charlotte, because goodness, every one of those games goes to overtime. But so Sean, OVC, Sun Belt, SoCon, West Coast Conference, those are kind of the bigger ones going on right now. What are you looking at? What jumps out to you from any of those leagues? I'll let you take this in any direction you want here.
I'll say the Sun Belt's interesting because you're looking at a 6 seed in Arkansas State that has a conference player of the year, nor Chad O'Meara. He scored 34 points yesterday in their win. I think they're a really dangerous 6 seed. They have O'Meara, they have Marquise Eaton, Caleb Fields, Desi Sills, a former Arkansas guard. They have a lot of experienced players that can go get buckets. They can defend. Norchad O'Meara is a tough matchup for anybody. And then you've seen some upsets in that league already. South Alabama, who I picked to win the conference tournament before I knew JJ Chandler was out. That changed things, but they ended up losing in the first round to Little Rock. I mean, Jordan Jefferson made 8 threes. Nobody really saw that coming. And then, so anything can really happen, but as a 6 seed, I think Arkansas State can definitely win the conference tournament, go to the NCAA tournament. But you have also some pretty good teams in that league. You look at Georgia State, who's been really hot recently. Great defensive team.
I'm a Georgia State guy.
Yeah, I think they're probably the favorite at this point if I had to put it for myself. But I think Arkansas State's in that mix. Texas State, they have a lot of experienced players. TJ Johnson's doing a great job. Caleb Asbury. If you're looking for a mid-major guard who just lets it fly from outside, go watch Caleb Asbury because he's not afraid to shoot deep threes, and he makes a lot of them. So that's the player to watch for sure. And then you look at Coastal Carolina falling yesterday to Georgia Southern. That was one I didn't really see coming either. So it's been an interesting conference tournament out there in the Sun Belt. I'm with you. I think Georgia State wins it at this point, but I wouldn't sleep on Arkansas State. I think they're a really dangerous sleeper.
Yeah, you mentioned the Georgia Southern game. My colleague Matt Cox made the claim that he thought 10 teams could win the Sun Belt tournament, and I cut it at 9. I didn't think Georgia Southern could do it, but they pulled the upset over Coastal. They've certainly got a chance. Ace, I got to ask you about the CAA because I know it is very near and dear to your heart. What do you think's going on? Towson, I'm surprised how big of a favorite they are. I don't want to turn this into a betting show at all, but the odds for them to win that tournament are it's basically even. You're not getting the extra money. They were awesome this year, no question, but they tied with UNC Wilmington. Hofstra has a ton of talent. Do you view them as the overwhelming favorite, or do you see them as one of maybe the best of a really good group of teams? How do you view that league?
I think they're the best of a really good group of teams. I think the CAA is going to come down to 4 teams: Towson, UNC Wilmington, Drexel, and Delaware. Those 4 teams I think are cut above all the rest of the teams.
The Hofstra shade from you, Ace.
What I said Hofstra, Delaware,
Wilmington, Towson.
No, he left Wilmington now.
No, I said Towson and Wilmington. I said Delaware and Hofstra. Did I say that?
I thought you said Drexel. I thought Drexel was in
it. You said Drexel.
Let's say it comes down to 5. It comes down to 5.
No. Yeah. Drexel is not in the 4. I'm about to misspoke.
You said Drexel, 100%.
Drexel was playing Delaware in that 4 or 5 game, which would be a really good game. And historically, those teams have had some great battles through the years in that league. But the clear, in my opinion, 4 best teams in that league are Towson, Wilmington, Delaware, and Hofstra. So those 4 teams, I think, are going to be one of those 4 teams are going to cut down nets. I think Towson is the best team out of those 4 teams. It swept Hofstra, split with UNC Wilmington, and they swept Delaware. And obviously, the second game of that Delaware split was extremely bizarre with that postponement of a basketball game, which I've never seen in all of my years of playing basketball and covering it. I've never seen a game postponed and then restarted almost a month later. But nevertheless, Towson is really good, man. I mean, first of all, they shoot the ball better than any Towson team has in the Pat Scary era. Usually, Towson is known for defensive, what they do on the defensive side of the ball, and obviously how they rebound the ball. I mean, Pat Scary teams through the years have always rebounded well and defended well. But this year, they're rebounding, they're defending, and they shoot the crap out of the ball. Obviously, they have a quartet of guards and Terry Nolan, Jason Gibson, Nick Timberlake, and Antonio Rizzuto. All 4 of those guys can shoot the ball. Then they have obviously Cam Holden, who was a first-team All-CAA selection this year. Nick Timberlake also was first-team All-CAA selection.
So Holden's got the mask off, right? He's good.
Hey, mask off for my boy Cam Holden.
That's
man.
right.
He is good to go now. And the thing that Towson, man, is that Charles Thompson has really come on late for them, man. He's been awesome in the last month or so of the season, man. And here he earned himself a spot on the second team All-CAA team. But he's been awesome on the boards, on the defensive side of the ball. And he's relentless, man. He's somebody that can go out there and get you 15 rebounds a game if you need him to. But Towson, I think, is the favorite. But I will say, man, guard play in the CAA is going to be at a premium, man. Hofstra and their guards, obviously, are the player of the year. That league was Aaron Estrada. You also have Jalen Ray and Zach Cook. Delaware's guards with Jameer Nelson Jr., Kevin Anderson, and Ryan Allen. UNC Wilmington excuse me. They have I'm blanking on the names right now, but they have a trio of guards.
Sims, Okaru, Phillips.
Okaru's really good.
Yep. All three of those guys are really good, man. So the guard play is going to be at a premium in the CAA, and I think it's going to come down to the team that makes the most shots and the team that can get the most stops. And right now, I think that will be Towson. But all four of those teams are going to have a shot to win it, man.
Yeah, that's the Towson, the team. I always think of the CAA as parity. Like in our preseason preview, we're like, oh man, 9 or 10 of these teams could win the league. So to see Towson separate the way they did was really impressive.
You're going to pick 8th, and Wilmington got picked 9th, and those two teams tied to win the regular season championship, which is nuts.
Proof that nobody knows anything about the CAA. My goodness, it is hard to figure out. I do think you're going to hear it about so many teams over the next couple of weeks. Like this team can be a Cinderella, like under the radar. Look out for them in the first round. Towson is that team because, like you said, Pat Scarry kind of unlocked the thing with having shooting to go with everything else that team always did well. Now that they've added shooting to it, the Tigers can absolutely play. All right, let me ask you both quick about the WCC before we move on from tournaments, because I'm going to be there. There's going to be a big one. BYU did beat Loyola Marymount, so we get this San Francisco BYU game that I don't know if it's technically going to be like a play-in game to the NCAA tournament or if it's the loser leaves town kind of situation. But regardless, it is a huge game for both sides.
Yeah.
So San Francisco probably in better position, might even be in the tournament with a loss here. BYU more kind of backs against the wall, desperate, needing big wins. How do you see that one playing out? Because both these teams won on the other's home floor this year.
You mentioned it, man. I mean, BYU right now is definitely, I would say, the team that needs to win this game the most right now. They're 4-5 in quad 1, 3-3 in quad 2. So, not terrible, but definitely need some work there. Whereas San Francisco, they're all the way up and right now in the net at 26. They're 3-5 in quad 1 and 5-2 in quad 2. So, they are obviously in need of a win themselves, but they also have that quad 4 loss on their resume, which is kind of angering them down right now. But I think San Francisco is the better team. If I had to put my money on one of the two, I think I would go with San Francisco. I think obviously what job that Todd Golden done this year, Jamari Bouye is awesome for them, man. And I think if I had to bet my money on one team, it would be San Fran. But like I mentioned earlier, there's something to be said about a desperate team. I think BYU is a little bit more desperate right now than San Francisco. So I wouldn't be surprised if they came out of that with a win. But if I was a betting man, I'll put my money, I think, on San Fran.
Yeah, but BYU seems like they've righted the ship a little bit. They had the losing streak and it didn't go well, but they've won 5 of their last 6, 3 of them against Loyola Marymount. That certainly helps. But it seems like they've kind of got a little more forward momentum. I expect that one to be a really, really good game. Sean, I'll ask you this about this event. Do I see a Gonzaga upset? Am I going to see one live, or is it going to be the Zags roll to the title here?
No, I mean, I think the Zags are going to roll to the title. It's hard to beat them once. It's even harder to beat them twice if you're St. Mary's. But the only team in the league that has the correct formula to beat Gonzaga, especially this year, is St. Mary's, because Randy Bennett's going to make it a half-court game. He's going to slow the game down. He's going to make it a real battle. I mean, it's never easy when you're playing St. Mary's, and they're a really good team. I know losing against anytime Gonzaga loses, it's made out to be like the end of the world sometimes, but St. Mary's is a really good team. So I think Gonzaga is going to be able to go and win this game against whoever they'll play, probably St. Mary's pretty handily.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I looked at it. Like, they lost on the road. St. Mary's certainly has a good model for how to defend them. Randy Bennett has kind of cracked the code. 2 straight seasons, Gonzaga's lowest assist total has been at St. Mary's. Like, think about how good the offense was last year, how good it is again this year. And they held them to 4 assists last year, I think 3 this year. Just remarkable stuff from Randy Bennett and his game planning. All right, let's take a quick. Oh, go ahead, Ace.
Before we move, I will say, like, I don't want to say that I think San Francisco could beat Gonzaga, but that game that they played on senior night San Francisco, man, it was a track meet. In San Francisco and Gonzaga, you talk about the shot making that was Chicago, the whole our game. Gonzaga didn't miss for the first 4 or 5 minutes of that game, it felt like. Like them dudes really came out of the gate and did not miss a shot. I mean, they shot in that game 55% from the floor and 50% from three. So, like, I'm not going to say that they can't do that again, but, like, if they would have, obviously, if San Francisco wins and they match up in that semifinal, like, I'm not going to say they beat them, but, like,
I think that's a good game. Yeah.
You know, like that would be a good game. I mean, they lost 89-73 in that first game, and Gonzaga shot 50% from three-point line. And San Fran did as well. But, you know, I think if you can find a way to kind of get some stops, then I think San Fran could potentially make that game a lot more interesting than people think.
Yeah, if you're going to let Gonzaga run in transition, though, it's going to be a long night for you.
Yeah.
Dons were tied. Dons were tied early in Spokane in the second half. They were hanging around for more than 20 minutes. And yeah, they just came out in that game at War Memorial in San Francisco and could not miss. And that set the tone for the way that was going to go. Not how it worked out at St. Mary's, where Gonzaga couldn't score early. So we'll be curious to see how that one plays out. All right, let's take a quick break. Let's get Jacob, our producer, in here to get some chat questions for us. Jacob, what are we seeing in the chat?
Well, first off, me and Zach got a nice little, FU for being UNC fans in the chat. It's a tough life out here. But
I tell chat can be brutal sometimes. You just gotta let it roll off you. Roll with the punches.
But on UNC, one of the bigger questions was, who do you guys have winning the ACC tournament?
Okay, Sean, let's go to you first. The Duke is the heavy favorite here. I'll ask you this, Sean. Is it Duke or is it anyone else?
I'm going to take Duke for sure. The ACC is not very good. I think Wake Forest would probably be the biggest contender. I do think they're the second best team in that league. You look at Alondas Williams, he's probably the conference player of the year. Jake LaRavia has been a great up transfer, maybe the best up transfer in the country. I mean, he got better going up to the ACC from the Valley, so he's been great. I think Wake Forest is a really good team, but if you're looking at a sleeper, maybe Virginia Tech, they can really shoot the basketball. Mike Young's a great coach. Keve Aluma's a good player. And you have guys who can come off the bench like Darius Maddox and Sean Padula and really knock them down from outside. Both are shooting over 50% from deep. So I think it's Duke's to win for sure, and that's how I'll pick it. But I think Virginia Tech could be an outside sleeper. The metrics still like them. I think they're solid. And then I'd say Wake Forest is that second team behind Duke.
Yeah, you can't convince me that Sean Padula has ever missed a three. I've never seen it.
I don't think he has.
There's no scientific proof of that. All right, give us another question here, Jacob. What else we got?
All right, so the next one is about the Big East, obviously one of the more fun conferences this year. Which Big East team has the most to prove in the conference tournament?
Ooh, Ace, what do you think there?
It's Xavier. There's a lot of questions in Xavier. Like they have been playing like doo-doo for the past month of the season. Like I think every other team in the Big East is squarely in the tournament, man, except for Xavier. I mean, Xavier was solidly in about a week or two ago, and then they've literally been trying their hardest to play themselves out of the field, over the last 2 weeks. And I think for them, man, you have to try to find some momentum here. They're gonna get Georgetown. They're 12.5-point favorites. And again, I'm not a betting man, but I think I would take the Hoyas plus 12.5 in that one for sure. But I do think Xavier's going to win that game. So you can kind of get some, I wouldn't say momentum, but, the Hoyas, could be a little springboard to catapult yourself into MSD with some confidence. It could be a great confidence boost. You go in there, you get a good win. But like I said, man, Xavier has some work to do, I think, at this point in time, just in terms of getting their mojo back, man. Because this is a talented team, right? Like coming into the year, this team was picked in the top half of the Big East for a reason, man. And, they haven't looked that way of late. And I think they're a team that, if they're going to want to make the dance, they lost 5 straight games. So, at that point, at some point, the bleeding has to stop, man. You have to start to put together some wins if you want to be able to get into the tournament. So I think Xavier is undoubtedly a team with the most to prove in that conference.
Yep, I would buy that. Providence won the Big East regular season. Villanova has certainly proven quite a bit over the years. Xavier is the one that has drifted towards the bubble, needs to get a win there, can't go down and potentially risk being left out on Selection Sunday. Don't give the committee a reason. That's what I say.
Exactly.
All right, guys, we're gonna pivot to a game last week. Sean, you, me, and Greg played some this or that. This week, we're going start, bench, or cut. I've got a few questions here for you guys. I'm curious on your answers. And again, folks, they have not heard these questions, so we're getting them on the spot, seeing what they think, gut check answers. We're starting with the Mountain West top dogs. You're going to start, bench, or cut. Sorry, Wyoming has kind of played themselves out of this trivia question or this question here, but it is
They're not in
Boise
it?
State. No, Boise State, San Diego State, Colorado State. Those are the top dogs. You got to start one, you got to bench one, and you got to cut one. Who's ready for their answer first?
I could go first. Yeah.
All right, fire away, Sean.
I've seen two of these three teams in person. Did you see Boise or San Diego State, Jim?
I've seen Colorado State and Boise in person.
Okay.
I've not seen.
Yeah, those are the two I saw. Those are the two I saw when they played Nevada. So I'll say and I've watched a lot of all these teams. I'm going to start Colorado State because they have the best player in the league in David Roddy. They have one of the best point guards in the league, probably second best behind Hunter Maldonado with Isaiah Stevens. They have shooters across the floor. They have a great Swiss Army knife kind of player in Chandler Jacobs. I just love that offense that they have. They play together so well, and David Roddy is an NBA level player. This is tough. I mean, because San Diego State's offense is not good at all, but Brian Dutcher in that defense, I'm going to bench San Diego State because Matt Bradley is just a big time difference maker. He's coming back next year, could be an All-American type of player, but you're looking at someone like an Adam Seiko or a Trey Pulliam to be that second guy. Maybe it's Chad Baker-Mazar, but they need someone besides Bradley to step up when it matters. And I'm going to cut Boise State. That's hard to do because their defense has been so good. Nothing comes easy.
And they won the league.
I know. Nothing comes easy inside against Boise State. Marcus Shaver Jr. might be the clutchest player in college basketball history. Like you said, you've never seen Sean Padula miss a three. Wait. That's mostly a joke. But he's hit 4 big time shots this year. Like he's probably the biggest clutch shot maker in college basketball this year, maybe besides Ron Harper Jr. But
Frazier's up there too. He makes
buckets. I mean, Emmanuel Acott's a big piece for them. Tyson Dagenhart. It's hard to cut any of these teams, but I would cut Boise State because I trust Brian Dutcher's defense a little more, even though Boise State's defense is great.
Yeah, this is the tough thing. You got to cut one of them. Those are the rules. So Ace, where do you land here with these three?
Yeah, I'm starting Colorado State. So I'm gonna agree with Sean there. Like I think from a talent perspective, on paper, they're the best team in the league with Roddy, with Isaiah Stevens, Nico Medved, outstanding coaching. Obviously, they didn't end up winning the league, but I do think they have the highest ceiling of any team in that league when they get to the NCAA tournament because of their point guard play and because you have a guy like David Roddy who can go out there and get you 20 on any given night. You have a guy like Isaiah Stevens who is great in the pick and roll and doesn't turn the ball over. I think he's somebody that doesn't get enough credit for just how good he runs that team. And obviously, they didn't end up winning the regular season championship. But I think, like I said, they're the team that has the highest ceiling in that league. But I'm gonna bench Boise and I'm gonna cut San Diego State. I think Boise. Listen, man, they're doing on both ends, man. They're second in the league in offensive efficiency and second in the league in defensive efficiency. They're the only team that's top 2 in the Mountain West in both of those categories. They're the best offensive rebounding team in the Mountain West. So, if they're not, making shots, which they're the third right now in the league in 3-point percentage, they shoot 37% from the 3-point line. But if they are making threes, then they also can get it off the glass, man. And I think they're a team that is going to be dangerous in the Mountain West tournament, man, because they also, on the defensive side of the ball, they limit the amount of offensive rebounds that they give up. I think they're a team that, come on West time, like obviously they won the regular season championship, and I wouldn't be surprised if they won the conference tournament championship either. But I think San Diego State is a great team, elite defensive team. I think they're a team that we know defense travels, man. So I think we're finally going to get the 4-bid Mountain West this year, man. I think it's going to be something that is going to be very exciting come March Madness because they've been one of the most fun teams, one of the most fun leagues to watch this season.
Yeah, the onus is on Wyoming to make that happen because I think those other three, right? I think those other three are in comfortably. But so before I saw Boise live, I think I would have cut them here, but I was really impressed with them. UNLV had just blown out Colorado State the weekend before in the same building, and Boise came in and really kind of controlled it, despite a couple of runs from UNLV. So I think I'm going to cut San Diego State. I'm with you guys. We're all starting Colorado State there. But Boise really impressed me. They are tough. They're athletic. Having 2 Pac-12 down transfers is really advantageous for them. All right, the next one. Big name bubblers. You got to start, bench, or cut North Carolina, Michigan, and Notre Dame. I'm throwing in there. There are some brand names here, fellas. So I'll start here. I am going to start Michigan. I know that's probably crazy. They've been very up and down recently, but I think they have the best player of this group in Hunter Dickinson. I certainly like having the best player on the floor come March. And hey, Phil Martelli, he's doing some good stuff on the sideline there with Howard out. I will bench Notre Dame, and I'm cutting North Carolina. Sorry to our producers who are not going to want to hear that, but that's where I land. We'll see what Carolina can do tomorrow. Ace, what do you got in these three? Notre Dame, Michigan, North Carolina.
I'm with you. I'm starting Michigan. I'm as much as I hate it, I'm gonna bench Notre Dame and I'm gonna cut Carolina. And to be honest with you, I haven't been high on Notre Dame all year. Like, but I mentioned earlier before we were on air, like I don't care who's on the other side of that bracket. I don't care who. Give me anybody versus Carolina, and I'm taking the field. Sorry to all my Carolina fans out there, but I think Notre Dame is a team. Obviously, you have Blake Wesley, who's potentially going to be an NBA player this year as a freshman. And to be honest with you, I saw them early in the year versus Howard, man, and they really struggled, man. I'm gonna give a shout out to Coach Kenny Blakeney here and what he's doing at Howard, man, because they're having an outstanding year. They got to lock up the second seed in the MEAC, and they gave Notre Dame a run for their money. Obviously, I don't want to overreact.
That was a fun game. That was a fun game.
Outstanding game. Like I'm talking about, like that was one of the most fun games that I've seen all year. I had the opportunity to be in the building for that one, and I think for Notre Dame, man, I wasn't too impressed with them because the way that Howard was able to kind of take them out of their stuff offensively. Like they run a lot of stuff that requires continuity and rhythm and pace on offense, and Howard was able to disrupt all that on the defensive end. And I think they're a team that if you get into the tournament, man, they play a team like a San Diego State or a team, Texas Tech, depending on what the season end up being. But they're a team that I think is going to really struggle when they play against some elite defenses, man. And even that Duke game, man, it looked like they were just outmatched when they played Duke. But like I said, I'm not a Carolina fan. I mean, in my opinion, that team is not a very good one. So they're getting cut for sure.
All right, Sean, do you disagree? What do you got?
I'm going to start Michigan. I agree with that. Hunter Dickinson is really good. He's a great passer. I feel like that gets underrated a little bit. That's a very important part of his game. You have Devontae Jones, who's a really good player at times. And then Caleb Houston, when Caleb Houston makes 3 or more threes, Michigan is 6-0. I mean, that number says it, they need Caleb Houston to play well to be really good, and that's what they've gotten when he plays good. So if Caleb Houston plays well, Michigan's good. I will bench North Carolina, and I don't like North Carolina or Notre Dame. I'm not high on either team. I'll bench North Carolina because they have a bit of a better offense, which sounds kind of crazy because Notre Dame's usually known for their good offenses under Mike Brey. It's still good, but it's not quite as good as North Carolina. And when you compare the talent, North Carolina is much more talented. They're a little worse defensively. But I'm going to cut Notre Dame because their biggest win is over Kentucky. They have a good win against North Carolina. That game was pretty close, but they haven't beat anybody within the top 50 of KenPom since that North Carolina game 2 months ago. So they've beaten some ACC teams that just aren't that good. They've beaten Miami, who's going to make the tournament, but I don't know how good they are either. Notre Dame needs more from a guy like Prentice Hub. I feel like if they're going to win a game in the tournament, I don't really think they do. I'm going to bench Carolina. I'm going to cut Notre Dame.
All right, there you have it. All right, I'm very intrigued by what you guys are going to say with this one. This is not a pick a team. You must pick a tournament to watch. Start, bench, and cut of these 3 tournaments, the Big East, the SEC, and the Big 12. They're all going to be wonderful. And you can factor everything with this. The gym, so Madison Square Garden might hold some juice for you in the Big East tournament. The announcers, the time of day. Like the SEC, the finals on Sunday. The Big East, you get the Saturday night final. So you're starting one of these tournaments, you're benching one of these tournaments, and you're cutting it, and you cannot watch the cut one. You're outlawed from watching the one that you cut. So Sean, what do you think here?
This is tough. I'm going to start the Big Ten because I'm still trying to figure out who the best team in that league is.
No, Big Ten's out. Big Ten's out.
Big East, Big East, Big 12, and SEC. I don't know why I thought you said Big 10 instead of Big 12. I'll start
the Big Ten, or you would have cut that one.
I would have started them. I'm going to start the SEC. I'm going to start the SEC. I still think Kentucky is probably the 3rd best team in the country. I think they have national title aspirations for sure. Oscar Tshiebwe is probably the national player of the year. I want to see Ty Washington really get it going because when he does, Kentucky becomes maybe the best team in the country. So I want to see a little more of them getting it going some more. Tennessee, Arkansas, both really good teams. Auburn, I still don't know if they can win a national title, but they have the number 1 draft pick, so that's always must-watch television. I'm going to bench the Big 12. They have a lot of good teams in that league. They're going to get a lot of teams in the tournament. You've seen TCU go and beat Kansas. They almost beat them twice. They beat Texas Tech. Texas Tech themselves are pretty good. I'm still trying to figure out how good they can be because I'm not sure if a team without a true point guard and with Bryson Williams being your top scorer, if Texas Tech can really be a Final Four caliber team. I don't really see that. I think they need TJ Shannon to get it going if they're going to go far in the NCAA tournament. Probably a Sweet 16 level team for me. But there's a lot of good teams in that league, Baylor, Kansas. I like the depth of that league. I'm going to cut the Big East because you have Villanova, you have Providence. And then after that, it's not great besides that. So I'm going to cut the Big East.
Ace is shaking his head. I kind of agree. I'm starting the Big East. Ace, what are you doing?
What? I'm going to MSG. I'm starting the Big East.
I want to watch the better teams. I'm not going to be there. I'd prefer to watch the better teams.
You said we're going, right? Oh, are we going?
This is just viewing experience.
Oh, so we're watching at home.
It doesn't make a difference from my couch if I'm watching what arena it's watched in.
Yeah, it does. You get listen. You get the 6 overtime. Eric Diefendorf on a little table. You get Kemba making McGee fall. You get UConn 5 days, 5 wins. Man, Kemba.
Is this which tournament's historically better, or is this what we're going to be watching this year? I don't think Kemba Walker's coming back to college. I mean,
I'm saying, you get those moments. Look at how many moments I just ran up to my tongue. The Kemba step back. You got the 5 days and 5 nights UConn Huskies. Man, you get 6 overtime UConn Cherokee. Like these are all classic moments in history of the Big East tournament. And it's at MSG. You get my guy John Fanta on the call.
That's right.
Like Santa Claus.
That's true.
Okay?
Yeah.
Some Raftery, some Gus Johnson. Yeah.
See, I didn't know that was part of it. I didn't know we're counting
everything's part of it. Oh yeah.
I'll still probably cut the Big East.
Yeah,
but.
wow, God. That's that West Coast stuff right there, man. Look, I don't like that. Listen. The Big East is getting started for sure. I'm benching the Big 12. Great basketball, great conference, very competitive league. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a conference tournament where you might see some upsets, just because of how, evenly matched a lot of those teams have been all year. A team like TCU has picked off, some of the best teams in the league. And I think there'll be some great matchups in the Big 12 tournament. And then I'm cutting the SEC, man. I mean, look, I think, listen, the Big East is getting started. So it was either the Big 12 or the SEC for the last spot. And I'm sorry, but the Big 12 takes the cake in that one.
Yeah, I think I'm going to bench the SEC because I'm intrigued by, like Sean said, the Kentucky-Auburn potential stuff we have there. I want to see if Kentucky gets to the full health top gear that I think they can. It'd be nice to see it before the NCAA tournament because you want to make sure Ty's healthy. We'll see. So I'll bench the SEC, and I'm cutting the Big 12. There's a lot of defensive, grinding teams in the Big 12. And I
agree.
For an aesthetic purpose, yeah, I'm gonna knock them
I
out.
like defensive games though. It's fun. Come on.
I'd rather watch Wendell Green and JQ.
Yeah, let's watch Wendell Green throw up 35-footers late.
Yeah,
yes,
I mean,
hey. Let's watch that.
Yeah, that's we'll see. All right, let's take a quick break. I've got 2 more start bench cuts that I want to get you guys' take on, but let's go to the chat. Let's get a couple of questions here. Let's see what they're discussing. Hopefully my guy Jacob is around and has some questions for us.
So, first one is, of the potential 16 seeds in the tournament, who is most likely to pull a UMBC?
I feel like this question was like addressed to Sean Paul, mailed to his house.
Wait, I want to go after Sean Paul. I think the answer is that. Because I want to see who he's going to pick. And then if he doesn't pick my team, then I'll go after him.
I'll go to Bracket Matrix right now and read you the 16
you. I was gonna say because I'm not a bracketology guy.
Don't cheat.
No, he's gonna see who's listed on the 16 line. Yeah,
who's in the area. So here's who's in that region right now: Longwood, Cleveland State, Bryant, Norfolk State, Nichols State, Texas Southern. Those are currently the 6 seeds at bracket.
Can I go
16
first,
seeds
please?
at Bracket Matrix.
He's gonna say Bryant.
That was my team the whole time. That was my team though. Bryant, leading scorer in the country. Peter Kiss, Charles Pride, Pizza Hoops. Hey, shout out to Pizza Hoops. Shout out to Charles Pride. But listen, Peter Kiss got suspended for 2 games for that incident with LIU. And Charles Pride, the next 3 games, had, I believe it was like 46, 33, and like 30 in 3 straight games from there. Like both of those guys were first team all NEC selections. The highest scoring duo in the country is Peter Kiss and Charles Pride out of Smithfield, Rhode Island. And they have a great coach in Jared Grosso. And they played an extremely fun brand of basketball, man. Those 2, Peter Kiss and Charles Pride, are 2 guys that ain't gonna be scared of nobody. Like if they get matched up with a Gonzaga or anybody, like they're not gonna be scared. They're not gonna be intimidated. And obviously Peter Kiss was a guy that played in the Big Ten. He played at Rutgers. spent 3 years there after he left Quinnipiac, man. He's a guy that has played at that level, man, and is going to be able to get his stuff on, man. Obviously, you got a transfer in Greg Calix, came from George Mason.
Yeah, they have talent.
They have talent, man. Like they're a team that I think, I'm not calling it upset by any stretch of the imagination, but they have the talent to make the game fun.
All right, you ready for my quick rebuttal on that, Ace?
Go ahead.
111-44. That was the score when Bryant played at Houston. They lost by 67. That's my concern.
No Peter Kiss.
That's not bad.
No Peter Kiss. No Peter Kiss in that game.
My concern would be that playing fast against the 1 seed is scary because you let the talent gap bear out over some extra possessions. UMBC was real slow, half court, made some threes. Sean, did any of those 16 seeds jump out of you? You know what? I kind of think somebody like if there's an upset in one of the other conference tournaments and you get somebody, because UMBC was not the favorite to win their league that year. That was Vermont.
If Longwood's a 16, I'm gonna assume that means Winthrop would be a 16. So that's who I'll take for that. DJ Burns, Conference Player of the Year in the Big South. He's really tough to stop. He's a guy that started his career at Tennessee. So he was a high major guy coming into college. He's a really good player. You're probably going to have to double him. He's tough to stop. And then you have shooters all across the floor that could get open if DJ Burns is getting doubled. You have Patrick Good, who was a really solid player for that East Tennessee State team that ran through the SoCon a few years ago. You have Russ Jones, who can hit a shot. You have Mike Anumba, who was a good player for that team last year that was able to make the NCAA tournament. And you have a reliable point guard in Drew Buggs, started his career at Hawaii, made a brief stop at Missouri, and he's now at Winthrop. He's not a guy that's going to go win you a game. He's not going to go make a game winner from 30 feet, but he's a guy that's going to set the table. He's going to run some good offense, and he's a really steady facilitator for a good team. So when you're looking at the talent level and the coaching, I'm going to say Winthrop is a team that could make some noise as a 16, but we're talking 15 seeds. I'll say Princeton.
No, we had to get a Princeton mention from Sean Paul.
They're not going to win the Ivy League. They're not going to win the Ivy League.
I think they are.
Neutral site at Harvard. It's going to be a contentious tournament.
Yale's winning the Ivy League.
We'll see. My cheating answer for the 16 seed question is that Georgia State will get a 16 after they win the Sun Belt because they struggled early, and they're gonna get.
That's a good call.
Yeah, that's
if they get a 16, I think I like that too. I would say Winthrop or Georgia State for me. Then that's a good call.
I think we generally agree that no 16 seeds will win, though. Unfortunately,
it's only happened once for a reason.
Yeah. Let's do one more, Jacob, and we'll save the rest of them for afters.
All right. So going off the tournament a little bit, heading into conference tournaments, what is the updated Player of the Year expectation for you three?
I think it's Oscar right now. He's just
doing like top 5 or top 3 or
we'll get top 3 out there. And if there's another name you think that can come from outside that top 3, Oscar's probably the leader and the favorite right now. He's just a metronome. Like every time he goes out there, it's 15 and 15 basically. I usually am a lean towards people that can create their own shot for National Player of the Year. That's not something Oscar can do. So Johnny Davis is up there. And who's making a hard charge right now is Keegan Murray. Not only because he's playing great, but Iowa's winning basketball games. They're up into the top 15 at Ken Pom. They're almost the highest rated Big Ten team, which is shocking to me. So that would be my 3, probably in that order too: Oscar, Davis, and then Murray. Ace, where do you stand?
I can't get on the Oscar trade for National Player of the Year. Like I understand everybody, his stats, his numbers, but he's getting it off the glass. Like you're not throwing him the ball. He's not, what I'm saying? It's like, come on, bro. Like, at a certain point, I think it has to be somebody that is manufacturing offense for their team. So I favor a guy like a Johnny Davis or a Keegan Murray.
It's the end of a Kentucky game. You can't say, Oscar, go get us a bucket.
Yeah, he's the ball to Oscar Tshiebwe. Like,
there's 3 or 4 guys on Kentucky that would take that shot before Oscar Tshiebwe does, because he's usually cleaning up other people's missed shots.
Right. The game winner would probably be him grabbing like a missed high jumper and put it back.
Come on, bro. That can't be a National Player of the Year, in my opinion. Like, you can't be telling me if I can't throw you the ball and tell you to win me a game. How are you the National Player of the Year? I can't get with that. So with that being said, I'm gonna go with Johnny Davis because I think like for the whole season he's been a guy who's done it. Wasn't like to have been the brightest man. Obviously, he didn't play his best in that last game against Purdue, but I think in that first game against Purdue at Mackey, he put on a show. He's been somebody that's done it for the majority of the season, man. And Keegan Murray has too. And now I think with Iowa creeping up the rankings and creeping up, Ken Pom and all the metrics, I think he's somebody that's gonna have, is gonna have a great chance. But I don't know if I think it might be too late for him because I think that he got off such a he didn't get off to a slow start, but Iowa got off to such a slow start. I don't think his narrative is kind of as strong as it needs to be at this point in time in the season. But Keegan Murray and Johnny Davis would be 1 and 2 for me, or 1 and 1A even at this point in the year for National Player of the Year.
What do you got, Sean?
Yeah, I have the same top three. I'm with you guys. Like, it's hard to like.
I wouldn't even put Sheboy third. I wouldn't even put Sheboy third. Respectfully, I'm not even like I can't fathom him being in the combo because he's not. Like, come on, bro.
I think he has to be top
three. Ace hates big men. We know.
Yeah, he has to be top three. He has to be top.
I don't care about his numbers. Like come on. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm putting Sheboy third, probably, maybe second. The thing with Johnny Davis is he's had those moments where you're like, man, this guy's the best player in the country. Then he's going to have games where he struggles. But when it comes down to it, and if there's one guy in the country that I want having the ball late in the game, if I can choose one guy, probably choosing Johnny Davis to go get me that last bucket. That's probably what it is. But I'm going to go with the consistency factor, and I think Iowa might just be the best team in the Big Ten. So I'm going to say Keegan Murray is the National Player of the Year for me. 23 points per game, 56% from the field, 38% from outside. He's just been a monster all year. He's tough to stop. His brother's going to be an All-American next year. I already can see that coming. But Keegan Murray's just ridiculously good. He puts up numbers every single night. He's a great defender, blocking 2 shots a game. I don't know. I mean, you look at Iowa, I think they're better this year than they were last year. And a big reason for that is the emergence of Keegan Murray and what he brings on both ends of the floor, because he brings some elite level defense too.
Yeah, Keegan has really come on strong, just like Iowa. The one thing I want to say about Davis, because I think there's people that knock his efficiency a little bit. If you look at his biggest games, like you narrow it down to like the toughest road games, the Maui Invitational stuff when he was out here taking on Houston, he's shooting 40% from 3. Like his efficiency shoots up, his turnover rate goes down, his assist rate goes up a little bit. Like he has been his best in their toughest games, and that's how they win a regular season title and a Maui title. Like it's mostly because of Davis. So he still probably gets my vote, but I understand the arguments for Murray, for Sheboy, they're definitely out there. All right. Before we wrap up and head to afters, guys, I just want to quick talk about the Big South tournament, because if people are not watching it, it has been unbelievable so far. Bojangles Coliseum, it has been nuts. We've had, I believe it's 5 overtime periods. 4 different games have gone to overtime. We also had a heartbreaker today where a tying free throw was missed right before we got on air here. We had a buzzer beating bucket yesterday for Charleston Southern, or 2 days ago. It's just been as good of a tournament as you could ask for, Sean. It's kind of the magic of mid-major hoops all rolled into one event so far.
Yeah, that's the toughest part about it, because you just hate seeing like Cameron Langley, or if you're Jordan Whitfield in those kind of situations, Langley could have given North Carolina A&T the lead. That's the last game of his career. He's out of eligibility. Like, he used his extra COVID year already, and it has to end on that note. That's the toughest part about college basketball, just seeing the guys that have put all that work in for years, trying to get to the NCAA tournament, and then just one play ends it right there. Like, that's the end of your career. That's just the toughest part about this kind of the conference tournaments this month. And that's what makes the mid-major tournament so much better in my mind, because most of the time these are one bid leagues. You're getting one team. So if you lose, you're done. You're going home. In the Big Ten, you're getting 8 or 9 teams in, which is great. I love the Big Ten tournament, but you look at the Big South, Longwoods ran through the conference this year. They went 15-1 in regular season play, and they almost lost to North Carolina A&T today, the only team that was able to beat them in the regular season. So that just kind of tells you everything you need to know about mid-major tournaments and what this means to the players and the coaches. It's just such a fun time. But the Big South has been awesome. I think Winthrop is the team I would pick to win that conference tournament. Gardner-Webb's in that mix. Longwood, of course, is there as the favorite. I think one of those 3 will win it, but I'm going to say Winthrop's a winner for me. Ace,
do you have a pick from that league? Or have you just been kind of enjoying the mayhem that it's given us?
Yeah, the mayhem has been outstanding, man. And I'm going to agree with Sean Paul. I think if I had to pick a team, I think I'll be picking Winthrop too. DJ Burns is the Big South player of the year. I think anytime you have the best player in the league, that's going to give you a great chance to win basketball games. And they're coming in winners of 9 straight games. So, they're playing their best basketball at the right time, man. And I think if I had to pick a team to cut down the nets, it would be them. But what I do want to say about mid-major tournaments is that we had this convo in the group chat. I didn't get to weigh in on it, but part of me wishes that obviously you don't scrap the conference tournament, but part of me wishes that you took the regular season winner in a lot of these leagues. Just because of the fact, look, listen, especially in leagues where you play a true round robin, if you play, and I know the Big South doesn't, but if you play 20 conference games and you go 19-1 in the conference, and then you happen to lose on a one-game basis where you might not shoot the ball well, you can't tell me that team doesn't deserve to go to the tournament. Like, if they've proven that they're the best team in that league the entire season, like, that's why I think obviously you're only getting one team in a dance. So it's like, all right, how do you take the regular season champion over the tournament champion? But I think anytime a 20-game sample size is a big enough sample size to prove who the best team in that league is. So I think, like, obviously it's unfortunate that a lot of these conferences you're going to see these teams that have dominated the regular season, somebody's going to lose, and their season's going to end. And I don't know. I think that's always kind of, as somebody playing in a low major, mid-major league, like, it's like, dang, like, that's crazy.
Let me propose one thing, dude. What if we did it this way, where if the winner of the tournament's not the 1 seed, they have to beat the 1 seed again? Is that too advantageous to the 1 seed, where there would be like an add-on game on top of the tournament? It'll never happen because of TV rights and stuff. But would you think that would be more fair, or is that too much of an edge for the 1 seed?
I think you have to reward regular season success. Like what? Like,
if you win the regular season, you get in the NIT, though. So your season continues.
But you want to go to the dance, man. You don't want to go to the NIT. You want to go to the dance. Like, I feel like if you really want to put an emphasis on the regular season in these mid-major leagues, like that would be a good way to do it, because I feel like you have to reward these teams who have literally spent months like putting together effort to win the league, and then you lose one game. And it's like all that was for nothing. Like, I don't know. I just think that's like, well, a lot to ask of these mid-major teams.
I'll say this. So if this were to happen, that means Oral Roberts doesn't happen last year. They were the 4th seed in the Summit League tournament. So you can look at it that way.
Beat them twice. Beat them again.
You can look at it that way.
Do it again.
Well, Oral Roberts beat South Dakota State in the conference tournament. They beat everybody. Yeah, they go and almost make the Elite 8. So when you look at it that way, I think if you're able to go through the conference tournament, you deserve to be in. And the conference tournaments are awesome. So I don't want that to change. I don't see any reason why I'd want it to change. So I'm going to stick with the conference tournaments being what they are, because I mean, Oral Roberts was probably the best team in the Summit League down the stretch last year. They had the best player in the league, and they were able to go make the NCAA tournament, win 2 games. South Dakota State was great, but at the end of the day, Oral Roberts is the one that came out of the conference tournament. They were able to win 2 games. I don't know if South Dakota State would have done that.
I just think back to those Monmouth teams, being a MAC guy, like that Monmouth had that 2-year stretch where they beat everybody in the non-conference, and they had that argument to get an at-large bid, but the Buffalo trip, they lost to Canisius on one of them games, and they lost somebody else. I want to say maybe Iona or something like that. And then they went to the MAC tournament and lost Iona and Final back when they had AJ English, and they didn't get in the tournament. Like, they had a great season, like non-conference, conference. They might have been like 18-2, and then they didn't go to dance. I'm like, sheesh, like all of that work for nothing. Like, that's crazy to me.
The one thing I will, to tie a bow on this, I do think there's maybe some tweaks that could be made. I like leagues that really reward like the double bye to the semi or home court advantage, especially in the mid-major. I think that kind of edge is good. It's up to the league. The league decides the format. They could theoretically, if they wanted to, reward their bid to the regular season champion the way that the Ivy used to, but kind of money talks, and you want that big TV game for your league with everything on the line, the NCAA bid. So that's kind of what it ends up coming down to, unfortunately. All right, let's transition to afters. This was a wonderful show tonight. Let's transition into afters. This will be more a chat-based discussion. We'll get some more questions coming in from the chat. We'll get Jacob on the mic here, and we'll just kind of have a little bit more crowd involvement for 10 or 15 minutes. We'll answer some questions, and then we'll give our 3 cheers, and we'll sign off for the night. So let's go to Jacob. Let's see what kind of questions we have rolling in on the chat.
All right. So you did Player of the Year. Now, what are the first team All-American picks for you guys?
I sent somebody this in a text like 2 days ago, so I got to dig this out. The one name, I didn't actually put him on first team, but the one name that got a lot closer to me or for me than I expected was JD Note at Arkansas. I just, the way he's come on, the way the teams come on. I think I ended up putting him on second team, Ace. I've been really impressed with, and we talked a lot about how the point guard and the guard situation this season isn't as strong as normal.
I have one name that's going to be uncommon. I can get into it now.
All right, go for it. Yeah.
All right, so you're going to have Keegan Murray. You're going to have Kofi Coburn. And I kind of look at it's not like I'm setting an actual lineup that's going to play together, so I don't have a problem putting Sheboy and Coburn together. I don't have a problem with that.
I want all American teams to be best 5.
Exactly. So I'm going to go Sheboy. I'm going to go Coburn. I'm going to go Keegan Murray. I'm going to go Johnny Davis. So you're looking for that one last guy. Is that Ochai Agbaji? I'm going to go with Colin Gillespie because he's the best. He's the best point guard. He's the best point guard in the country. He's going to win the Cousy Award. Villanova is really good. Gillespie's averaging around 17 a game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 42% from outside, and Villanova wins. So I'm going to say the best point guard in the country. I think he deserves to be on the first team All-American list. I'm going to put Colin Gillespie there.
Love it. Ace, are you ready or should I give mine real quick?
Give yours first. I just realized I had my mic sitting on my thing this whole time.
Hey, there we go. Look at this. We got Ace in HD now. Look at that. Here we go. All right. Well, we make sure he gets settled. Here's my 5. Oscar, Johnny Davis, Keegan Murray were like no-brainer, complete locks to me. I debated the final 2 spots. I didn't actually put Kofi on.
Oh, man, Illinois fans. Illinois fans can't be happy.
They're going to kill me. He was the first name I have on my second team. He was my 6th player. But I have Chet Holmgren. And then I decided between Agbaji and Mathurin. Yeah. And I went Agbaji. I think both those guys are very deserving. They're very similar roles for teams that are probably both going to win regular season titles. Maybe I should have gone Mathurin because the team's a little better, but I think he's got more help inside. Koloko defensively, Tubelis has been ridiculous so far this year. So I gave the nod to Agbaji as my first teamer. Ace, what do you got for us?
On the fly here, I'm gonna go. I'll give Sheway first team All-American honors because he's not my player of the year, so I'll give him first team All-American honors. I'm not putting 2 5-men on there. I'm sorry. Sorry.
It's the 5 best players in the country.
It's on paper. We're not playing games with this team.
We're not playing a game with this team. So I gotta have a point guard on my team though. I'm putting the point guard in there. So I'm putting Gillespie as my point. Even though we're not doing position by position, it might end up going away from me. But I'm gonna go, man.
Davis Murray.
Keegan Murray, Johnny Davis.
Those 2 have to be there.
Yeah, okay. Keegan Murray, Johnny Davis for sure.
So that leaves that one spot where
Gillespie,
Coburn,
Coburn,
Chet, Timmy,
Mathurin, Walker Kessler is a possible name. Yeah, Jabari Smith. Curious who you go with your Ace.
Man, this last spot is hectic. I ain't gonna lie. I think I'm gonna go with. I think I'm gonna go with Chet.
I'm the only one that had Kofi on my list. Wow, that's something.
Sheesh, man, this is tough. I don't know because Drew Timmy is averaging 18, 6, and 3. So it's like you gonna put Chet over him? Like Chet is averaging.
Well, when you add defense, though, defense, Chet is like
averaging 4 blocks a game, which is absurd,
and shooting like 42% from 3 on the year. Like it's wild.
Yeah, he's nuts. He's nuts.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a close race. I would say that there are definitely at least 2 spots are very open right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think they can still be earned.
Seaway, Johnny Davis, and Keegan Murray have to be on there.
Those 3 locks,
and then everybody else, it's like that's going to be the last 2 spots are going to be the ones that are going to get highly contested.
Yep, agreed. What else do we have here, Jacob? I'm in the chat now trying to page through a few, but if you have one for us, hit us.
So, of like the big dogs heading into the tournament, who is most likely to fold and suffer a first round exit?
Define big dog.
Yeah.
Like top 2 lines.
Okay. I was going to say, if we're counting like North Carolina historically, I'm like, I'll take them to lose in the first round. So
no, you have to go from top 2 seed lines from bracket matrix, which is Gonzaga, Baylor, Arizona, Auburn, Kansas, Duke, Kentucky, Wisconsin is the last 2 seed. I don't know if that's going to be the low-hanging fruit for you, but all right, go for it, Sean.
I'm going to say Auburn. I mean, I thought you thought I was going to say Wisconsin.
I did. I thought you were going there.
Yeah. They're second for me there. I'm going to say Auburn, though. I don't trust the guard play. And at the end of the day, you have to have good guard play if you're going to win games in the NCAA tournament. Wendell Green hasn't been efficient. Most mid-major players that go up take less threes. He's taking more threes, shooting around 30% from deep. He can explode for 20-plus on any given night, but then he can go 2 for 15 on other nights. You have to find a way to get Jabari Smith the basketball because he's the best player on your team, and he needs to be taking those final shots. I just don't trust the guard play. I think Auburn's going to be out before the second weekend.
Interesting. I love it. Ace, is there a team that jumps out for you there?
I'm going Arizona. I'm going Arizona. I'm going Arizona.
Arizona.
I'm going Arizona. Like I think this team is great, and I'm not going to pick them to lose. But I think out of those teams you named, I don't like all the Wisconsin slander. Like I really don't understand it. Like obviously, I'm not gonna be on my full Goodman hoops here and say that they need to be a 1 seed. But like this
I think they have a conversation.
If they win the Big Ten tournament, they are a 1 seed for sure, without a question. And I think obviously you win the regular season in the Big Ten, you win the conference tournament, you're a 1 seed. That debate is out the window. But they have a player, Johnny Davis, who can score 30 or 40 on any given night and shoot the ball well. They have an experienced point guard, obviously, Brad Davidson, and they have guys that have experience, playing in tournament, playing in the Big Ten, and been in some battles over the years. So I wouldn't be surprised if Wisconsin made a deep run in the tournament, man. And the reason that I think Arizona, the team that I think can go out early, because one, I don't trust Kirk Kriisa at all. Like,
but you trust Wendell Green more than you trust Kirk Kriisa.
Those two teams have similar issues, I would say.
I do. I trust Wendell Green more than I trust.
I don't see it. I'm
Team Kerr. I'm Team Kerr between these two.
I don't see it at all. I mean, I think Wendell Green's a fine player, but if you're telling me I need one guy at the point guard spot, I'm going Kirk Kriisa all day.
Well, I think for Arizona, like if you get, I think a lot of this is going to depend on matchup, but their team that is obviously their average possession length right now is 14.9 seconds. So they're going to get it down, get into a track meet. Literally. So you get into a track meet with a team like a South Dakota State, and then South Dakota State is going to be a team that should be seeded pretty high in the tournament. So they might not catch them until maybe the second round of the tournament. But I think if you get into a track meet with a team and you catch somebody like that can shoot the ball the way that they can, or somebody that can keep up from an offensive standpoint, and somebody that can put pressure on Kirk Kriisa, like to make plays when it counts, I think that you can give them some trouble, man. And I think that oftentimes Arizona just gets into this pickup type basketball where they're just literally.
But they're elite defensively too. They have that fast tempo, but they're elite on both ends of the floor. I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, I just think, like I said, I think matchup is going to depend on a lot of it in the tournament. But I think if you catch a team, like I said, a team that plays fast, a team that can keep up with them on the offensive side of the ball, now I think you could give them some troubles in the tournament.
My hack answer to this usually is always Purdue, because I don't trust their defense at all, and the historical precedent for teams built like them, at least analytically, is not great. It's kind of the same for Wisconsin, the teams whose resume really outpaces their advanced predictive ratings. It's the history is not too great for them either. So I'll say Wisconsin, even though I grew up a Badger fan. So that's coming not from any position of bias. All right, one more question that I saw that I wanted to hit before we do 3 cheers, and that is, who is most likely of the bubble teams, or of the teams maybe in the first 4, to make the UCLA run, to do what they did, to go from first 4 to Final 4, win 5 games? So who in that kind of area? I know we talked about Michigan and UNC, Notre Dame earlier. Is it one of them, or is it Memphis? Is it SMU, Wyoming, Wake Forest, Rutgers, maybe?
Is Wyoming that close to the bubble? Like, are they really that close to the bubble?
They've struggled a lot recently.
Yeah, they've fallen off a little bit.
They were New Mexico. I thought they were
lost to New Mexico, lost the other day to San Diego
State. So we'll include Wyoming here as part of the criteria. So who do you guys got? Who can make that run like UCLA? Sean, let's go to you.
My answer, I'm pretty sure my answer to this for the last month was Oregon. That's not going to be the answer anymore, because they're not going to be in the first 4. Yeah, I mean, you can't lose to Washington. You can't lose to Arizona State twice. You can't lose to Cal if you're going to make the tournament. That's why Oregon won't be there unless they win the Pac-12 tournament. So I will say, I think Greg said this last week that he would say Memphis is this kind of team. I think I'm going to go Michigan. I think I'm going to go Michigan, because you have Hunter Dickinson, who would be an All-American if Michigan was a little better. I mean, his numbers are great. He's a great player. You have 2 potential first-round picks with Moussa Diabate and Caleb Houston. I'd like to see Devontae Jones shoot the ball a little more still, because he can do it. He just doesn't do it a ton. And you have Eli Brooks, who's a steady defender. I would like to see a little more from the bench for Michigan, but you have Dickinson. You have some pros. I'm going to say Michigan has that kind of potential to make a big run like that.
All right, Ace, what about you?
Well, shoot, since Wyoming is in this category, I'm going Wyoming. I mean, I think they have, two of the best players in the league, obviously, in Graham Ike and Hunter Maldonado. I love Hunter Maldonado. I mean, this dude is 6'7", 203, point guard. He's averaging 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists per game. Like, I love his game. And that game earlier in the year versus Colorado State, he had, I believe, 35 And I think he has this old man game. Like he doesn't really get sped up. He can post up. He's not a great shooter, but I remember they went under on a ball screen one time. Wyoming set the ball screen at the elbow. Colorado State went under it, and Maldonado obviously was butt naked from three, and he knocked it down. So he can knock down shots if you leave him open. Graham Ike is a guy that's athletic, and I think when you have a 1-2 punch like that, they aren't Max Asmus and Kevin O'Bannon because they don't shoot it the way that those two do. But I think you have two players that can go out there and get you 20, 25 a night. And I think those two players are teams that you can, hang your hat on. They're 39th in the country in offensive efficiency right now. So elite team on the offensive side of the ball, and they're 76th in defense. So, not great, but not terrible as well. I think they're a team that if you catch them in March, they get the right matchup. They're a team that can make a deep run.
I like that. Some big donker in the chat asked me if SMU would be my team. They're close. I love SMU. I adore that team. The way they can spread people out with the small ball lineup they've done with Marcus Weathers at center has been remarkable. I think the answer for the closest analogy to UCLA last year for me would be Rutgers, because they have multiple
Rutgers
tough shot makers the way that Juzang and Jaquez were for them last year. Baker and Harper have hit some really, really tough shots throughout their career. They've beaten really good teams. Like I think for this question, you want somebody with a high ceiling. North Carolina would be a bad answer because they can't beat good teams. They haven't done it. But Rutgers has won some really, really difficult games, both at the rack and away from home. That's kind of the thing that's different about this year's team, is that they've won away from home too. So I'll give Harper and Baker the nod there if they end up in Dayton. All right, guys, let's wrap this up. 9:15 Pacific, that is, past midnight over on the East Coast. Let's get to our 3 cheers. We're going to start with Sean because he's drinking a virgin daiquiri over there. We don't have him on the really sipping quite yet. But Sean, who is your 3 cheers going to on this fine Friday night?
Yeah, I'm gonna give my cheers to Kent State.
Oh my God, you stole mine.
Well, I started first. So Kent State, 12 straight wins, beat Buffalo today. They beat Toledo earlier in the year. They swept Ohio, who's really struggled recently, by the way. I mean, Ohio has really, really struggled of late. Lost to Northern Illinois today.
Circling the drain, the Bobcats.
Yeah. But Kent State, I mean, Sincere Carey, he had that great freshman year at Duquesne, and I think everybody was like, all right, he's going to be a potential A-10 player of the year kind of guy, and then just never really took that step up. He was kind of the same guy for 3 years. Now he's taking that step up at Kent State. You have a bunch of guys who can defend, like Malik Jacobs, great defender, really athletic, former JUCO player. They're a great defensive team, have a great guard, potential conference player of the year in Carey. So I'm going to give my cheers to Kent State.
All right. To Kent State, the Golden Flashes.
To Kent State. I got some wine. Don't. They also told me I had to put it in a cup because we don't drink cheap wine over here on the field of 68.
To say, I know it's not in a beautiful stemless wine glass or anything. That's not All Facts Media style.
All Facts Media, we do not do fancy wine glasses on this side. We do. I don't even know what type of cup this is, but we're balling on a budget on this side. You gotta go. You gotta go, Jim, because Sean stole mine. I'm gonna cook something up real quick.
You should have known I was gonna take that.
I should have known. I should have known.
My 3 cheers goes to the Ironman 5 at St. Bonaventure. I sometimes razz this.
This is unbelievable, son. Look at what, yo. Wow.
See, it was senior night for the Bonnies tonight. I sometimes razz Coach Schmidt for not going to the bench much, but this group has been remarkable for 2 straight seasons. They all have a year of eligibility left. There's some whispers that maybe 1 or 2 or even all could come back. I would be surprised if that happened, especially the way they treated senior night tonight. But they've done a ton for that program, started a bajillion games for them over the years. Oshun came back from an injury and played tonight, played really well. They got a big win over a similarly experienced Richmond team. Little momentum heading into the A-10 tournament for the Bonnies. So to that Ironman 5 from St. Bonaventure, that's my cheers of the night. Ace, you got to cheers with us.
Cheers.
Cheers to the Bonnies. All right. Hopefully you've had enough time to get a third option ready.
I'll put in another answer just so I can take his again.
No, we ain't doing that. We ain't doing that. I'm going to cheers to South Carolina Upstate and Dave Dickerson. They got a win today over Charleston Southern. Obviously, Coach Dickerson endured something unthinkable and lost his wife to a battle of cancer. And they were able to get a win. And his son, Dave Dickerson III, was able to get into the game in that win, man. And obviously, I can't even imagine what that would be like to, lose a mother, a wife, at any point in time in the season, but especially at a time like this when you're, the most important time of your season, man. But for them to be able to get that win today in her honor, man, I think that's something that's remarkable and something that deserves a cheers.
I'm glad we took your other two because that's a great.
That's better than ours for sure.
Yep. Cheers to Dave Dickerson and his
family.
Cheers
to Dave Dickerson. Yep.
All right, that wraps up our Friday edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate all the questions that came in through the chat. That was great. It's awesome on a Friday night to have that. Be back again tomorrow night, of course, on the Field of 68 After Dark. That'll be same time. I'll be back on Sirius XM Radio as well. But for Ace Robinson, for Sean Paul, for our producers, Jacob and Zach behind the scenes, thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you again next time.